Okay, so Seun, Moyege, Tolu, you're all very young people. And today, one of the things I want us to just briefly talk about is a topic I will call why do good girls like bad boys? I think I've seen it happen so many times. You have a situation where there's this well brought up, principled, lovely, well trained, you will say sometimes the girl has good home training. And then she just finds herself in a situation where this guy comes along and suddenly she falls and she says she's in love with him and she's not thinking. At least you look at her and you see that she's not thinking. And sometimes we wonder, and that's where the question is coming from. Why do good girls sometimes like bad boys? Because it's not something you will expect to happen, but then it happens. Seun, what do you think?
Well, I definitely have been there before. I think one of the biggest things is that there's some level of mystery and just something, yes, that you haven't really seen before. So you're used to all these people who are like you guys, who are one way, technically boring, and in some way because they are also so focused. So it's about life, work, maybe school, money, like so one directional, no fun, no chilling, and then also I think because I think one of the biggest things is that they're so sure that you're going to be reasonable. And I'm talking about good guys. They're so sure they're going to be reasonable. They don't do the things that will floor you. You're like, why are you so lazy? Like, do these things,
Okay, so maybe before we go ahead a bit, because I defined good girl. I didn't really define bad boys. So who's a bad girl? Who would we say is a bad boy? I think it's what we will call bad boy in quotes. We're looking at this guy. He's very well packaged, very well put together. So he has this external nice packaging. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then somehow inside, he's no commitment, no compassion. He's very selfish, thinking about himself. Most of the time he's a player. All he wants to do is to get what he wants out of this girl and move on to the next person. And that's the kind of person he is. Extreme bad boy. Okay, are there grades of bad boy? So maybe what's the other grade of
Well,
bad boy?
I think it depends on how bad the boy is. For me, sometimes most of them have good values, even better than some Christian broadcasts.
And then he's a bad boy.
He's a bad boy in the sense that he probably doesn't know Christ. And he probably doesn't value God as much as someone should value God.
But that person is still nice. I'm not sure you will class him as okay. So what you're saying is that you're also looking at bad boys in the sense that somebody that doesn't value God, and you will not expect a lady or a young girl that is very close to God to now want to fall. Okay. So we can expand the bad boy to also include.
I want to say something about bad boys. As fair for our kind of ladies or girls, I would say bad boys can even be Christian boys.
Okay.
Bad boys can be Christians who club, who don't mind having sex before marriage, who don't mind gambling, but they know God. They fast.
And I think that's even worse.
They pray. Like they're like all
I think that's even worse. Because you don't know what you're doing.
but why we call them bad is because they're probably handsome, they gym, so they're not some Christian boys like said lazy. They just think because there's God, okay, I'm fine. But then these bad boys go the extra mile to look good, to even know God to get us. It's all part of the package.
Excellent. So we have three separate definitions of bad boy. The very bad boy, the bad boy who has good values,
So
and then the person that's supposed to be a good boy, but then has not really, in fact, maybe he's embracing God just on the surface, but he's not willing to change his lifestyle. And we would say that all these three kinds of bad boys, they're not really good for a good girl. A good girl that says, I want to live my life for Christ, focused, I want to get married to a good person. I want to have a good home. My parents have brought me up well, but they still fall. And why do they fall? So Seun has given us a little bit of indication about the mystery. And even though I'm an old mama, I remember one experience I had when I was 16. I just got into university. And I was walking in the afternoon with a friend of mine. We were going to lectures. So she met one of her friends and she said hello. And the friend, tall, handsome, good looking kind of guy. And he just turned to me and said, hi.
Wait, have you done your friend?
No, said hi to her.
Oh, okay.
But then just turned to me and said, hi. But then it all ended there. Then in the evening, I was just walking around. I wanted to go and get something. My friend was, and I now met him again, and he said, I met you this afternoon, didn't I? And I said, yes. He said, oh, what's your name? Because we didn't really introduce. So I told him my name, told him his name. He said, oh, do you mind if I come and see you in your room later in the evening? And, well, it's a hostel anyway, so it's not. Later in the evening. And what time should I come? And something happened to me from there. I gave him my room number, I gave him the time.
See? Attractive.
And then I now got to my room. I was waiting.
Oh wow.
Waiting. All glory be to God, he didn't show up.
You see? Wow.
So why do those things happen? I thank God because I believe God stepped in. God always steps in for me, so God stepped in. But then, why that attraction? Why do you see somebody that you see that this person is clearly not for me? And you find sometimes people go to the level of, people are saying, you shouldn't be with that boy, and then you keep on making excuses. You say, it's going to change. It's not really that bad underneath all the bad exterior and all that. So why do those things happen?
It's like what I've said before. Honestly, I think yes, I think there's a you've been in this crowd of Christians. You've seen it all.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about a Christian. Something new, and you want to find out what that is. I think for most of us, or let me just use myself. I think for me, I always know when I'm attracted to somebody. Sometimes I won't give myself the luxury, and I don't advise anybody to do it, to converse
with the
person. And almost sort of get some level of emotional attachment. But I know
that it's not going anywhere.
It can't go anywhere. It's like she said, it's like you want to just enjoy it until it passes or something, because there's all that attention, and then when you find with someone who's a Christian, they just want to be so focused. So all that girlish, I just want to be babied, I just want to be loved, I just want somebody to compliment me.
Let's pick up on that issue of wanting to be loved. You know, because I think that's probably a major one. You get somebody that walks up to you, and you see these people you call bad boys. They're so charming, they're so smart, so charming.
Yes,
and they even the pickup line.
Yes.
So so somebody comes up to you from behind and says, the sun is shining, but you're shining so much more. May I know you?
So funny.
No, but somebody does that. Okay, you say nobody does it anymore. But if somebody does that to any girl today,
sometimes
you want to pay attention now.
Yes.
You know, you just want to pay attention. Somebody comes and says, after, I just can't get you off my mind. I think I'm beginning to fall in love with you.
Someone I met at NRIS, he said my name as a beautiful soul. I mean, it wasn't for me to know. So the thing, I just found out. So it's like, I don't know whether it was, I didn't know whether that was like an act. Because it really didn't look like I was supposed to know. Why did he say my number, sir?
And then the person also allowed you to say it, So I think there's something about us that wants to feel loved. So if we're looking at why girls fall, and maybe we also look at how do we help ourselves so that it doesn't happen? I think one of the things is that we all want to be loved, we want to be babied, we want to be pampered. And then there's this issue that as you're growing older, there's these hormones in quotes that are just flowing. Somebody once said that men are moved by touch. Sight. Men are, sorry?
Yeah.
Yes, men are moved by sight, women are moved by touch. But women too sometimes could be moved by sight.
Yeah, there's always this side of everybody that has this picture of it all dark handsome.
And you know the media, the way I look at it is that
Yeah.
It's so
if you look at these beer adverts, perfume ads, and cigarettes, their ads, and you look at the guys. And in reality, a guy who smokes, who drinks, who does all those things, is not the typical kind of man that you want to go for. But then they put this picture of this guy that is
But they have it all
the
together with all of that.
all
When it's
together, the most
unlikely
handsome.
that that's
And somehow, I think that thing becomes ingrained in our minds. So when you now see the picture of that, do you know that sometimes a good girl, depending on the level of good, people see a guy smoking and he's going out, and somehow it might not just put you off. Sometimes,
yeah.
not that of course you will marry the person or whatever, but you find that some people might still fall.
Yeah.
So this issue of us wanting to be loved, I think, how do we solve that? How do we solve that?
That's an interesting question because I have a scenario. I remember I was dating some kind of guy at some point. He's a very playful,
Is it bad boy?
bad boy.
Hey, so you
And
dated a
I
bad boy?
And I had this other guy that was coming. That just came to me and I said, I saw you in my dream. You're wearing a particular skirt. That's the skirt you're wearing. I'm like, really? I mean, it was so archaic and oh God,
Please move to one side.
So I think somehow the way they approach us make us feel like at the end of the day I might get bored in that sense married, because it's not only church you'll be going to, it's not only Bible studies you'll be doing. I mean, it should be a little bit fun to be with. It's not like you come and say you're so angel come. I know there are times when I want to share the things that we experience with God, have fellowship, but there are times we should actually have fun.
Get to know yourself, have a relationship.
Christian brothers can be rigid. So the fear of them,
Yeah, that's right.
the fear of them being very rigid, like
Will now make you want
think
to
of the future. You're like, I'm not
Okay,
sure.
so to answer that and to look at what we should actually do, I think, there's a sister friend of mine and she always says, love with your heart. Take your decisions with your head. So the bad boy comes, he might sway you on your feet. Think. The good guy comes, he might be archaic and think. This good guy, can we polish ourselves up together? This bad guy, there's no future there.
Obviously.
So one of the things I think we can take away from here is that no matter the initial emotions, the initial rush of feelings and everything, every woman needs to think. An example, a young lady came to meet me once. She was about to get married and they had fixed the date and everything. Both of them were Christians. Like you talked about the Christian, both of them were Christians, and he said the guy beat her. 2 or 3 weeks to marriage, and beat her very well, not small beating.
Wow.
So she came to ask me, that is the first time he has done it now. What do you think? And that's what I had to tell her. I said, think. If he's done it once, in fact, you should thank God that he did it before you got married and not after. So I think one first takeaway from this today is that when we're being approached in any relationship, anything, let's think. I know that there might be that initial gas, but when you get to your room, it has settled down, think.
And I absolutely agree. And the reason why is because the Bible does say that temptations are born out of our lust. What do we want?
What are we lusting after?
What is it that we want? For me, for me, I'd always said that I didn't want a Christian, and I put that in quotes because what I meant is a religious person. I didn't want someone who was so superficial, someone who carried it on his head, and not because I don't want someone who's deeply spiritual, but I didn't want someone who would come and bamboozle me with just things and then attitude and all of that. Exactly. And so what I used to console myself was, if I feel like I am a good catch, I'm a Christian, and I can be fun, and I'm not boring, and people can like to be around me, then I should be able to find a guy who is a Christian and who is fun and who I would love to be around with, I'll be proud of. I think sometimes we just have had so many experiences where it looks like, oh, this person is evasive. We would never find this perfect, in quotes, person who is it all, who is fun, who loves you, who would pamper you, who won't be overly spiritual in a physical relationship, in quotes, you know. And
I actually like that phrase.
But you know, so basically that's it. So I'm saying we should cut ourselves some slack, and I think I think a lot of prayer comes, and it's just like you said in your story. God comes through for us. He gives us all these times to escape. Don't ask yourself for the actual feeling at first attraction. Yes, that is okay because it's physical. Yes. It's what do you do with it, you know, after. I think
may God always give us the wisdom and escape routes.
Escape routes, yes. I totally agree.
And then, from what you said, I think what also comes out of that for me is that, so number one, we said we should think. Number two, which I'm taking from what you're saying now, is that every Christian girl, by the grace of God, should be confident in who you are. You should be confident, you should know who you are. And if you know who you are, somebody will not just come and say, I love you, you're brighter than the sunshine, I will break a leg for you, I will take a grenade for you, and things like that. And then you're swayed. I think a lot of that swaying comes from a lack of confidence and strength in who you are. As a Christian girl, we should know who we are taking our identity from. And our identity is from Christ. And that same Christ eventually gives us an escape route. That same Christ will eventually give us
a knight in shining armor.
Like my knight in shining armor. Yeah. That's a story for another day. Because God did give me a knight in shining armor. So I think those are two takeaways rather. But what else do you think is another reason why this happens?
Well, let me say something. So, like I said, I still stand by my definition because as millennials in these days, I know it's back in the day, people used to say stuff like that, or I saw you in a dream. I don't think it works these days. And then where I schooled, the average student at Telecom University is a Christian. So you can't say the average, or let me not say a Christian, but knows God or knows how to act like they know God. So you can't say that they are being a cake per se. You can't say that, or you can't say that they're too bad because we all know God, we all know what we're supposed to do. And at the same time, these people know how to throw you off your feet. They can be romantic, as opposed to the olden days Christian guys who did not know how to woo a girl. So I would say that another thing that can make you fall most times is, like someone would say, why would you date someone who is not going to heaven at the end of the day? Why would you put yourself through that? So I'll say why I can, if it hasn't necessarily happened to me, but why I would want to be led on by someone who I would say I can't marry in the future. That's what I would define as a bad boy, someone who I will not end up with.
That's another,
that's what, for me, that's what I would say it was a bad boy, because we don't have the same values, we don't necessarily stand by the same values. But then why I would allow myself to be led on by someone like that is if he really has observed me and knows how to tickle my fancy or knows the kind of things. So you will just want to go through all that. And this is someone who every day doesn't bring up, oh, can we talk about the Bible? Or can you see how Paul talked to the Gentiles and the Jews? He's not always trying to preach.
So he's charming, he's fun.
Exactly, he's normal.
He's nice. He comes across as nice.
Yes, he's thoughtful. Like she said, he's very thoughtful. But so like, so
but he's bad.
Yeah, he's
bad,
yes, because he just doesn't share the same values with me. If I go out with him, I won't necessarily drink if he drinks and all of that. But the only reason why I would fall is, like I said, just to see where it will go and enjoy the moment. By the end of the day, after I'm sure I've thought about it and all of that, you will just put a stop to it. But most times, usually, I believe that good girls too have wisened up. I don't believe most people now waste their time doing things like that only not to end up with them. So I think the only reason why you really want to fall is just to enjoy the moment, or to feel like a girl, to feel that, oh, I can be loved, I can be treated special. I'm not. And usually good girls are always the ones going out for some guys. Actually, they're always the ones being thoughtful or trying to think about, oh, how can I throw him a surprise, or how can I do? You know what? Those good guys may not necessarily be returning the favor. You know,
there's some good. Let's also put all the good guys in one box.
The truth is, yes, I honestly try not to do stereotypes, but what I've found is that it's not that they're not doing anything, it's that you can tell that they are absolutely secure in their place. And there's no problem with that. I don't want to be in a relationship, and I don't want the person I'm with to feel like I'm going to leave with every little one misstep or not. And I also don't want that person to feel that. But I don't want you to also have that attitude, like you have a job and you're so secure that you have the job that you don't do your job.
Oh yes, I feel like
that's just the sense that I mean.
I actually shared something like that recently. Now, why is it that the good guys, the Christian guys, the guys that have it put together, they always make you feel like they're doing you a favor because they're in a relationship with you? They always feel like I have good values, I have this, and
so that's
they are doing
one thing I realize with guys generally, Christian guys one, and then even the unmarried and the married, is that this security in the fact that I'm a child of God, security in the fact that I want to marry you, that's what I'm looking at. Sometimes they don't understand what is required to build a relationship and to build an enduring relationship. But one thing, that doesn't make them bad, one. Two, there's also an opportunity to learn. So what I find is that if one also comes across people like that, it's not enough to throw away the relationship. I think sometimes I've seen situations where you can actually now coach. There's a place for coaching. So if you know it and the guy doesn't know it, you can actually coach the person. Like, I'm supposed to do this now. You're supposed to call me on my birthday. You're supposed to give me a gift on my birthday. Some people don't know. Some people that no, apart from not dating enough, some people actually grew up in a home whereby they don't celebrate birthdays in that home. So you start a relationship, you doesn't even know it's your birthday. Okay, please, I'm teaching you now. You're
very right.
And then you can actually teach. So it's not enough. I would say that if you find a good guy like that, rather than say he's not tall, he's not handsome, he doesn't know the right perfume, he doesn't know all those things, in a way could be worldly, doesn't have swagger. Swagger does not keep a marriage. Doesn't keep a relationship at all. Those things are what makes you classify those people as good boys, means that they actually have the things that could keep a marriage and keep a relationship. So where they have a gap, they can be coached.
So Pastor Dube, you talked about coaching them when they fall short of doing the thing the bad boy would do, like buying gifts and all of that. So how do you coach them without looking like you're complaining or you're comparing them? That still can affect the relationship.
Okay, so you don't complain and you don't nag. But I believe that there's some things he doesn't know. There's some things he doesn't know. He knows that you don't know. There's some people, a guy, for example, grows up in a home where they never celebrate birthdays. Maybe where he grew up, his parents are, and then it's on your birthday, so he doesn't even remember. You told him the date a week before. He doesn't remember. He doesn't buy a cake, doesn't buy a card, doesn't even call to say happy birthday. You'll patiently tell him that, look, what you should do. This is my birthday.
So you'll be paid.
No, you'll be paid. Of course, you'll be paid. And you'll be paid, and you can even, the way you react might be different. You might react in anger. I don't advise that, But you can tell him, like we talk about coaching. Coaching is looking at where people have a gap and then helping them to see what they can see. So you can just send, and then hope that by the following year, he remembers.
And you'll be telling you from 6 months.
It's my birthday. Do you know that when a lady has a birthday, you say happy birthday, you buy the cake.
Yeah, I don't think remembering is the problem with it. I just think it's the thoughtfulness. Sometimes it's not. We don't want to keep more than the kids.
It's just, and so what I'm saying is that I want to assume that the guy is thoughtful, but people express thoughtfulness in different. So some of the things we want, send me a text, good morning, beautiful. In the morning, so you wake up and you say, good morning, beautiful, it's your birthday today. Yeah. It's not everybody that is like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that
why always bad boys are like that?
Like she just said now that we should not stereotype. So there are lots of good guys also that. So let's just try. But the point here is that those things that you see in a good guy that makes him a good guy, let's not throw them away. Whatever lapses he has, okay, he's not hip, he doesn't have swagger. People can be
actually can be worked on.
Swagger can be worked on. Dressing can actually be worked on. Looks too can be worked on. And some of those bad boys don't have the typical handsome face they're talking about, but it's just the confidence and the charm, the aura, and the way. So there's no reason for good
and their
girls.
bad character can hardly be worked on actually, or the things.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. The bad character. Those things that make you say they're bad, they're things that most of the time you can't work on them. Somebody that is uncaring, somebody that his whole idea, there's some guys, and that will take me to my next point. Bad boys, one of the reasons why a bad boy is a bad boy. It's not because he's a bad boy because he's coming to you to say hello, and it's because he's looking at this girl, I want to sleep with this girl. Mm-hmm. That's where they're going to most of the time. For him to come and put in all those investments, all those poetic words.
Some people are even deeper people. Because some of these people want to marry just someone who they want to
before we come to marriage, let's talk about this. We see cases where a guy looks at this Christian girl and says, I'm going to get this girl. And he goes all out. And the Christian girl sees him smoking, sees him drinking, but still goes along with him, sees all and says, okay, we're just friends and we're just hanging out. Until one day, the guy gets that girl in a corner and he gets what he wants. And the next day he's gone. I've seen it happen before, clearly.
Yes.
And the girl, and most of the times, the girl, when she falls or when she eventually sleeps with him, she never meant to sleep with him. But it just happened, like you said, girls are moved by touch, Abby. So little touch like that. And then suddenly the girl just falls. And then what's the point of the whole thing?
I really think that a lot of being accountable to a small, just have a small circle of people whose Christianity they can trust. And when I say whose Christianity you can trust, I always try to be really clear about we're not talking about religion. Because right now in Nigeria and generally everywhere, there's just everybody is a Christian. In quotes. Yeah, so who truly loves God? Then who truly loves you? Who's going to tell you the truth? Have that circle.
So you should surround yourself with
that circle. And be accountable to them. Tell them exactly what is going on. This guy, I had a conversation. I had a friend. She was saying, "Oh, one of our lecturers is married, but he's so fine." It had nothing to do. She didn't like him that way. But the truth is that
all of the temptation
knew that this guy, he was attractive. It was kind of everybody was hearing the word that yes, you are married well. But the truth of the matter is that it's easier to fall into sin and into trouble generally when you are not. So sometimes I get really close and I'm afraid. So what I do? Sometimes I can't even tell somebody. I not say God, I need to tell somebody. And then go to bring somebody to now tell
me. You can tell.
They don't just have talking about the team. I will not have to and it just happened to me very recently. And then I just have to open my heart and say, it's true. But once you say it, it's like that whole breaks. And then everything becomes clearer. You can't that circle is not negotiable. You need to find it.
Excellent.
You do.
And I think one other thing that does happen is that this good girl, bad boy thing, from what you said, it also thrives on a little bit of secrecy.
Yes.
Nobody knows. Mom doesn't know. Dad doesn't know.
Thrill.
The thrill. The day dad knows and sits down and thinks, "Oh, can on share? Are you not thinking?" Somehow, it also brings back the common sense, that made everything just good. So, any other last thoughts? And then, if one.
Okay, for the secrecy part, like I also say, like when I have a crush on a random guy, once I talk to him, it's over. Like this is fine. I'm no longer looking forward to knowing what it's like to talk to you. So like she said, anytime he notices that seems like I'm getting too far, I'm also leaving him on, he's leaving me on, and I know at the end of the day, even if he asks me for text, I won't give him. And even if also you just cut it off, like she said, like just start. I always tell God to that. Okay, I know this is not good anyway. I shouldn't even wasting my time, wasting his time, wasting data, wasting talking hours, wasting so this is not even going to be part of my purpose. So let's just end it here and just always remember that this person might not even have your best interest at heart. He doesn't really love you. Just have to keep telling yourself that, and eventually you
tell yourself the truth.
Break away, yes.
So thank you very much, Seun, Moyege, and Tolu. It's been a blessing. And for our viewers out there, all the good girls, please, I hope you have been blessed and you've picked up a few lessons from this. And I pray that God will bless you and intervene for you all the time. In Jesus' name. And then for the good boys, maybe we'll come back later. Because sometimes good boys also like bad girls.
They always like bad girls. Something is wrong.
You see? So
it's like maybe attracting badly.
Opposites are attracting. But the Bible also now says, can two work together except they be agreed? So even though opposites attract, but when it comes to this good and bad, good, please stay with the good. And let the bad, let them sort themselves out. Thank you very much. God bless you.